We've been forcing by these tips. The lawyers clean up
All right, all right. Good morning, my doggies. It is 6:32. It is August 28th. It is Thursday. I hope everyone's feeling well. My name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com, the founder of Red Dog Mindset. This is your 6:30 Club, which I've been doing since 2020. It's been 5 years since the pandemic where I was sitting here in the Short Hills office, and I'm like, you know what? Everyone in the world wants to know what to do. They watched me during the 2000 bubble bursting, the financial crisis, and now the world just shut off. And I was like, guess what? Keep putting your monthly flows in. The world's not going to end. And if it does end, you're not going to know anyway. And from there, we haven't missed a day. Actually, we only go Monday through Thursday for the 6:30 Club, not Fridays. So you got to do one day on your own. Make sure you can handle it just in case somebody steals the Red Dog. And anyway, here we are posting the video. You should read through all of Jensen's comments. What's going to be going on in this world in the next 3, 6, 9 months, as well as 3, 6, 9, 12 years is going to be pretty amazing. So you don't want to be left behind. You want to learn and you want to evolve and see what the next trends are to find winners. And that's what we try and do here also. Tomorrow's the PCE, so we'll see how that affects the rotation trade. I think a lot of people have been making a lot of money, doing other things. In the past 2-3 weeks, you've really seen some other sectors, perform and make people some money. Hopefully you've made some money there. We've been trying to do with our power plays. Power plays took advantage of XLE and, a few of the Mag 7s. And, we're trying to find good trades. We don't look for tops. We look for setups. Even Apple from Monday, it's Thursday, playing nice with Tesla. I used to be the Apple trader or the Tesla trader, and both of them in the last week gave really good opportunities besides everything else. But anyway, let me say hello to some of the dogs around the world. What do we got? We got the channel guy traded. Good morning, Red Dog. IW, I'm about to pay the bills. That's good. What up, Rocky in Tampa? NVIDIA, pretty tame. Yeah, all the options. Sometimes the option dealers win. I didn't actually play NVIDIA. I was just like, you know what? I don't feel like trying to risk $2 to make $8. This earnings season, I would think out of the 20 different earnings plays, maybe 2 would have worked out of the 18 that the option guys would make money, but you could have made money a few days later. So I just kind of sidestepped it, but I still have a bunch of things going on. Here's the alpha team. The options aren't up yet. People like, Red Dog, what have you been doing? First of all, I've been hanging out with the alpha team. If you trade for a living, you should be with the alpha team. So I have a bunch of things going on. Google has been a power play, made new highs a few days ago. Been in Tesla's literally since which is down $1, big deal since Friday. Apple was a new trade. Amazon's getting real tight. I bought the dip in IBIT the other day. But anyway, we're just moving along. With that being said, there's lots of different ways for you to embrace or approach the market. And if you're not having success, you got to do something different. I was just talking to my buddy Pete, and he's like, what a year. He's like, why is everyone always complaining? He's like, you could have been in gold and made a ton of money. You could have been in Bitcoin and made a ton of money. You could have been in Ethereum, made a ton of money. You had Google make an all-time high. Amazon's had moves. Tesla's just gave you a 3-4 day move. The IWM just had a good move. The XLE just had a good move. Occidental finally had a good move. The BIOS, even MSOS. We bought MSOS at like, 280. It's at 5 and change. So the only people who are complaining are the ones that are probably short the market with opinions. This isn't going to end well, or got out of the market because they tried to be smart and then they're watching. Bottom line is you have to have a lot of different approaches to the market. I poach on the weekends my 7 approaches, which is monthly flows, the blood in the street account, my active account, my swing account. And these things didn't all start yesterday. They started over 30 years and you developed them. So develop them sooner than later. But anyway, Peter Sullivan says, BMNR, Kathy bought another 15 million yesterday. I actually bought BMNR calls out a month because I didn't know if we were breaking this inside wedge lower. Ethereum was a little weaker yesterday, but I think you could buy calls out in BMNR, which is like the Treasury Ethereum, Mr. for Ethereum. But anyway, I got it. What's up, Mike Pags? How you doing? What up, Vincent? Good morning. Peter Sullivan, good morning. NVIDIA approves additional $30 billion. All right, so let's talk about NVIDIA first. What do I think? I think NVIDIA, that's down 3 or change, is going to lull everyone to sleep a little bit. maybe take a day or two off, um, and stay in this channel. Okay. Last time I got very, very excited about NVIDIA was around here, and we bought the hell out of it, and it got through a really big area and it gave you a really nice move. Now it's been going sideways for a while. I don't know if NVIDIA is going to be like a little noisy today, but it's down 3. I would assume, we'll see if the way I'm going to look at it is maybe it puts a low in the first 5-15 minutes. You could buy Versat. We'll see the flows, and maybe it tries to go, green, or just kind of like, puts on the side. Because right now, like, the market's up. NVIDIA, look at Apple. Like, Apple's up 75 cents today. So I could see NVIDIA just kind of being on the side and other things do their thing. And then maybe at some point next week, it kind of gets back on its game. Maybe there's some good China news. So that extra 2-3 billion that's not in their guidance, comes in. So with that being said, a little bit more work here. Then I would assume that at some point within the next 2 to 4 weeks, NVIDIA breaks above this 184.48, if not sooner. So if you're an investor in NVIDIA, stay the course. If you're a trader, today could be noisy. Maybe with it down 3, you can go out if you feel like it's going to get up and go, and go out 2 weeks and buy 185s. They're cheaper today than they were heading into numbers. And as far as the other semis, I'm really not that interested. But Apple, so Apple, let's talk about that real quick. Apple, I told you guys on Monday, even I was talking to the guys on stocks on charts, for I do a thing at 3:00, and I was buying the 230 calls, and I also was buying the stock. I'm still in both. I think it gets back to 235 or maybe even higher. It's acting pretty well. Not a barn burning trade, but Apple's acting pretty well. Yeah, Snow had a big move. Following MDB. Some people are like, what do you do now with MDB? So I have this thing called this option type of evergreen process, where now you have a huge move at MDB, right? Big move, big gap up. So now you could be long verse 275. So if you think this is going to continue and it's really been battered and bruised, then what you do is you buy verse 275. Look at that. I said it would probably pause it here at 297. Anyway, what is this now? What is this high here? This high is, look at that, 297. Anyway, you go, then you take a look at the long-term chart. This stock's nowhere. So, sometimes if you don't play it for numbers, okay, you could play it after. So what I would do is, if you're looking for a swing long, you could be long versus 275. So now if you look at Snow's going to have a big gap up. Stock's been, kind of choppy as hell. Last time it had a big gap up, it continued and then rolled over. And now it's gapping up again. So let's see, first of all, let's see where MDB is this morning. Yeah, $1.35. And what's Snow doing? Snow is up 27. So Snow is at 228. Where's that? So this is so Snow is right to these highs. Wow. So maybe let's see. Let's go across, go like this, and at some point, I guess, see if this that's a pretty big level for Snow. So I would not be buying Snow into this gap up, but see how much the gap up holds. So that's kind of what you got to do post earnings is look at the gaps and see how it's going. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I appreciate you too, Richard. What's up, Nelvis? NVIDIA's going to chop around. NVIDIA's probably going to do like what JP Morgan did. If you remember JP Morgan came out with numbers. They were strong, but they kind of sold it down anyway, right? That was somewhere around here. I think they came out with numbers, digested, and then made a new high. And now it looks like it could make another new high. Remember, Goldman Sachs did the same thing. Goldman Sachs said, don't play it on numbers. It's really noisy. The whole world is looking at it, et cetera, et cetera. So I think they sold Goldman Sachs down, right? That was right around here. And then it held. I'm like, now you could be long versus 691. And it made a new move to 737. And then it held above it, made another new high. Now it looks like so I would think for NVIDIA, give it a day or two. Unless it just goes green today and just freaking knocks the short's teeth out, But I like this pattern here. And, if you're an investor, you need to be in NVIDIA. If you're a trader, there'll probably be a good setup soon. So keep an eye on it. Yes, Ima, I told you guys to buy Oxy. Yay. Anyway, it's not a barn burning trade, but we were buying Oxy in here to be part of Buffett's team. But more importantly, look at XLE. XLE was able to finally break above, this little downtrend. We were buying the XLE calls here for Power Play Options. Yes, Power Play Options is a product. I did a webinar yesterday with my buddy Adam Mesh. We had a lot of fun, and we're so far so good. So if you bought down here, you're like double dipping. You're able to buy versus support and trade it through a trend line. And now I guess we'll see, how it handles this gap here. But again, like I said before, there's a lot going on for those who are getting up early. That's why I'm up every day at 4:45, going over 40 different charts, having an ABC list, because I need to know what I'm prepared to do when the market executes on it. So this was kind of nice. Now it's into, this is a pretty big gap that it might want to fill. So XLE did pretty well. IWM's doing pretty well. Look how symmetrical this is. Remember, everyone was so upset about the outside, the inside day on Monday. And my boy Logical, he's very logical. He's very fundamental. He's like, I love this inside day. It's going to, digest and go. So I was like, yeah, actually, it's an inside day. It held the prior breakout. Looks pretty good. And look at that. So if you're I'm in some small cap names, but if you're in the IWM itself, you're doing real well. We have RSP on as a power play, just instead of the SPYs, and this looks like it's going to continue. So held where it had to. Look at this inverted head and shoulders pattern on the RSP. This is not bearish. This is could be even a cup and handle pattern. So anyway, RSP is something that's on the move also. 178 is the Mendoza line. What's a Mendoza line? Never heard of that. Yeah, QS sucks. Excuse my French. Sam Stevens is like, not everything's a winner, which is true. QS, it's just hanging in here. QS can't be a focus. If you're just trading QS all day, I don't know, you're not doing the wrong thing. It's got to be like one of 14 positions that you're just helping with. Same thing with like Rivian. Everyone's like, Red Dog, Rivian. I'm like, stop focusing on Rivian. Rivian is just, had an igniting bar. It's kind of hanging in here. I bought some and, maybe it continues. Maybe this igniting bar starts an active sequence. So I have a lot of money to put to work. So I bought a little Rivian. I'm not trading Rivian all day long. I'm not doing it like a Tesla, but if Tesla's acting well, chances are, some of the tails of the dogs could do okay. Anyway, with that being said, MLB thing, what's in a Major League Baseball? Thoughts on CMG? All right, let me look at CMG. I haven't looked at that in a while. These type of things are kind of tough. You had a huge move. It's near lows. I think, what do I think about CMG? I think it's not really an active trade. Like if you trade for a living, and you're like, hey, I want to buy CMG, you might not make money in it in August or September. If you're like, hey, it's a kind of a blue chip name. My kids love it. I love Chipotle. Chase goes there twice a week. Really good chicken. It's like it's really good fast food. But this is when you're above the 821 trending, and now it's in rebuild mode. If you want to buy some and put it away as an investment down here, I think you'll probably be okay. Like people did that like with Nike, right? Nike got battered and bruised, and everyone's like, Red Dog, look at Nike. Nike, look where it came from. Nike's been battered from 120 all the way down here. It looked like you had a lower level play, and it could start a new active sequence. I'm like, you know what? It's Nike. I get on clouds. I have like 4 on clouds. I have a few of those sneakers to get myself a little bit of height. Anyway, so this was a big brand, and there's a good spot. Some people tried it here, but here wound up being a better active sequence. So do I think you could buy CMG down here and make money in 3 or 6 months? I do. I think so. I don't think Chipotle's going away, and but for a trade, I would say, go out and not buy CMG, but like maybe go out and buy some options. Buy like a 45 by $50 call spread for like October or something. So you're not watching it. Anyway, with that being said, what Nelvis is saying, most famously used in baseball for batting average 200 or below, considered swing threshold for players hitting performance. Yeah. People say to me, like, what's my batting average? I'm pretty damn good. I don't swing for home runs. I'm like a singles double hitter. For me, I got to get my size up, and I got to, make bigger money in all of the trades. But I like to be consistent. I like to frame trades and let people, do what they want to do with them. Like I talked to you guys about Tesla on Monday. We were sitting here in the 630 club after Friday's move, and everyone's like, Red Dog, what do we do? I'm like, this is what you do. You had day one. If you're in 1,000 shares, it's down $2. Buy another 500. If it trades through 340 and change, buy a little bit more, and then if it pushes up, sell what you bought red, get rid of it green, and then get back to what you had and continue with the trade. So anyway, that this was a great 4-day trade. I'm coming in with the least amount that I had after 4 days. So now, I might even be able to add to it. But anyway, this has been a great little 4-day trade, a little red dog reversal, got above 351 and failed. Not failed, just took a little break. So that was a spot to, reduce some. That was a spot to change your sizing. And now today, I think there was a blurb out there on Tesla about how BYD is killing it in Europe, better than Tesla, whatever. So, this it needs to digest a day anyway before maybe working its way towards this little area there. Did Palantir consolidate? We made good money in Palantir. I bought it 2 days ago. It was red. I talked about the higher low, went from red to green up 3. And then yesterday I sold some into the Kramer $200 pump up 3. And then it just was weak all day. So I got out of it. To me, love it and leave it, right? Just like college. No, we didn't do that in college. We did sometimes. But anyway, now I'm married and, been 21 years. We don't do that anymore. But this was a love it and leave it trade. Like you had a low, a higher low, and into the moving averages. Not a above the 8-day, above the 21-day leadership trend trade. This was just a bounce trade. You sure you live in Tampa, Rocky? I stay in St. Pete, but right across the street. Oh, by the way, I've been to Tampa. Tampa's fun. Thoughts on EL? No one's ever said a word to me about EL in a long time, so let's see what that is. Yeah, Estee Lauder. That's a nice brand. Looking pretty good. Looks pretty decent here. All right, I like it. Looks like it's rebuilding. After a downtrend going sideways above the moving averages, it fits. GLXY. What's that? I haven't seen that in a long time either. Oh yeah, I remember this. This candle right here, if I was in it thinking it was going to break out, would have got me out. And now it's not doing a whole lot of things special. Maybe it tries to get above here and pop back into this area. It's a new name. It's rebuilding. So I think it's, just keep your eyes on that. It's not acting great. What do I think of Amazon? I think Amazon's getting better. I feel like Amazon is close to something better. If you look here, it's getting really tight. I made some money in it yesterday. I still have some options on for next week. Amazon looks pretty decent. I don't know if money's going to go into like this to me, like people like, what is Amazon? Is it a Mag 7? Is it value tech? Is it growth tech? I'm like, Amazon's a lot of things. It kind of sucks when Jeff is selling it or McKenzie, but overall, I think this pattern is pretty good. If I were a betting man, which I'm not, so like, you bet every day. I'm like, I don't bet every day. I've calculated risk. Anyway, at some point, I feel like this is going to take out 229.60, 234, and see a move back into the zone. I just don't know when. It could be in the fall. So I have that still on the radar. Looks pretty good. Someone's like, Red Dog, are you a gold bug? I'm like, I'm not a gold bug, but I do make money in gold here and there. And this channel to me is pretty interesting. It's been going sideways since April. So I put on a call spread for 3 weeks from now. If it's going to break out, I'm going to be in it in a call spread. I'm not going to be in the ETF. I don't need to look at it every day. You could have thought it was going to break out here. It didn't. You could have thought it was going to break out here. It didn't. You could have thought here and here. So, I'm like, hey, it might do it the next time. So I'll have it on as a call spread. So I think gold looks great. I also bought some IBIT back, into this little spot, this little red dog reversal. I'm like, finally, Bitcoin likes to stop people out and then reverse and then be fine. So I did buy some IBIT back. I'll trim a little bit. Bitcoin is just consolidating. But anyway, with that said, it's 6:51. It is Thursday. Watching the video, it's probably going to be isolated while other things trade. Don't overtrade NVIDIA. Maybe there's a way to buy Versa level today there. If you feel like you're going to miss something, then what I would say is go out maybe a week or two and buy the 185 calls and then see how it sifts out. Keep managing the trade. And like even Microsoft yesterday, some people like, hey, Microsoft looked like it bottomed after a big move down post earnings. I'm like, okay, something to do. So, if you didn't, they sold it at 555. It's been working its way lower, broke the 100-day, Yesterday was kind of strong for itself, and now it's up $1.50. That's a day and a half trade. I've made a living on day and a half trades. Sometimes a day and a half trade turns into a 3-day trade, and sometimes it turns into a 1 to 3 week trade or a 1 to 3 month trade if it's paying you to engage in acting better than other things, which is what I call acting special. So this is like kind of like a day one that, hey, maybe it starts acting better than it did during this. Because remember this day, and then boom. So want to see what happens there. All right, Nelvis is saying on August 22nd, Tesla was 336, it's 345 now. Percentage-wise, that's minimal. That move isn't anything special. Okay, I've made a lot of money in it. For people that get paid in August, it was a great move. Yes, it wasn't, a monster move. Now we'll see if it hangs and continues. August 22nd, last 5 days in. Okay. Listen, everyone's perspective is different, some people just want to catch a $2 trade intraday. Some people want to catch a swing trade. Some people want to stay with it if it stays great for 1 to 3 weeks. It all depends on what you want to do. But to me, this Tesla move was great. We did it here, and now let it see if Tesla holds, or say 343-ish, can move this up. Or maybe even there's a red dog reversal. Maybe it trades below 349.16, puts a tail and comes and goes sideways, and then it can set up another trade for higher highs. So to me, this is a great money move. So maybe I don't know. To me, that was a great money move. Anyway, with that being said, levels on BMNR. I guess you could say it. You have the new point of reference is right here. This low is 44.52. I think it's a tough trade because every time the stock looks good, they have to sell some stock to buy more Ethereum. If you read the guidelines on this thing, they want to own 5% of the Ethereum market. So I have no idea how long that's going to take. So as of right now, all you know is that here is yesterday's low. It's got a bit of a falling wedge. It's being accumulated. I like the players in it. So, at this point, we'll see if it gets any better. Last time it had a first day up, it got rejected. So at some point, maybe it gets going again. But I don't want to trade it every day. And I wasn't buying a dip there because I wasn't sure if Ethereum's going to hold. So I bought some options out 3 weeks in case it wants to, continue. But yeah. So, all right, guys, 6:54. Jesus, I spent 24 minutes here. I'm only allowed to spend 20. If you do find value in the 630 Club, I would subscribe above to Red Dog Mindset, which is a 25-20, which could have the 630 Club in there with a whole lot of other things to get your mind right so you can execute on the X's and O's. It's only $10. This is $6. You can spend $10 it's for the month, I think. Is it for the month? Yeah, it's for the month. That means what? 30 cents a day to get one idea besides 100, whatever it is. Anyway, with that being said, last week I was out and a lot of people like, Red Dog, oh my God, I couldn't, navigate the markets without you at the 630 Club. Well, if you're not a member of the Alpha team or Redler All Access and you're just watching here, and you feel like you get lost if there's no 630 Club, I would subscribe to Red Dog Mindset. So this way you're locked in for the future when things change. Change happens, my doggies. Anyway, I'm looking forward to September. Fitness, finance, football, new semester for kids, and even though we're grown-ups, you can get yourself in a new mindset for September. If you overindulge a little bit over the summer, make some things, write them down, and put some things on paper and stick to them. That's how you get your mind right and start moving forward and making some progress. You don't need to be perfect, just some progress that makes happiness. I'll see you guys later.